Shalom, shalom. This video is about the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verse 46 to 53, about believers' prayer for Yeshua to attend the upcoming MOAD. MOAD is one of God's festivals, the appointed times set in the Bible, set by Adonai. Not Jewish feast, God's feast. I'll read the text. So from that day on, they, referring to the Sanhedrin, plotted to kill him, referring to Yeshua. Therefore Yeshua no longer walked openly amongst the Judeans, but went from there to the country near the wilderness, to a city called Ephraim. He stayed there with his disciples. Now the Jewish Passover was near, and many people went up out of the regions to Jerusalem before Passover, to purify themselves. This is because purification may take up to 7 days, depending on what defilement you have been exposed to. So they were searching for Yeshua, saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? Won't he come to the feast at all?" Now the ruling Kohanim and Pharisees had given orders that if anybody knew where Yeshua was, he should report it, so that they may arrest him, or might arrest him, the text says in the past tense. Okay, the Ephraim was directly north of Jerusalem, about 1/3 of the way back to the Galilee. So Yeshua and the disciples left after Lazarus' resurrection, but they didn't go all the way back 160 kilometers of mountain passes to the Galilee. They stopped after about 1/3 of the way at Ephraim. The wilderness, or also known as the desert, referred to was over the Jordan River on the east bank into present-day Jordan. Ephraim means doubly fruitful to abundance. Yeshua's short stay there, waiting for the Passover, was meaningful as well. Coming out of the Exodus through the desert wilderness, the region of Ephraim was the nation's entry into Adonai's promises. From this fertile town and region, Yeshua went to the Passover to bring his sacrifice on the cross. The reference to the Jewish Passover is another one of those strong anti-Semitic glosses that crept into the Gospel of John from a hateful translator who translated this wonderful book from Hebrew into Greek, sometime in the 3rd or 4th century, when the church deliberately severed the roots of our faith. The reference to the Jewish Passover indicate also that the pagan festivals of Easter and Christmas had already replaced some of Adonai's Moedim at the time when the translation from Hebrew into Greek was made. Hence the separation or the definition. But I want to say again, the 7 godly Moedim given in the Bible belongs to Adonai, does not belong to the Jews. Of course, the Jews keep it, to the shame of us Gentile believers. The Sanhedrin consisted of the ruling Kohanim, which is a reference to the house of Annas, who were the corrupted Sadducees, and their hated opponents, the Pharisees, were now united against Yeshua in the protection of their unrighteous exploitation of the nation. Incidentally, the Sadducee-Pharisee hatred stemmed from the intertestamental period, when the Sadducees rightfully questioned the Hasmodean house's right to rule. The Hasmodean house was the descendants of the Maccabees. The Pharisees supported the Hasmodeans, and together Pharisees and Hasmodeans premeditated and murdered some 800 Sadducees who came to a meeting that was called to make peace between them. And this happened at about 160 years BC. But in our text, the Sadducees and Pharisees were united in their plot to murder Yeshua in order to protect their positions of power. In this they were the same as many modern and postmodern politicians and theologians today who murder biblical truth for personal and popularity gains. The politicians murder biblical truth by denying the Jews' right to the promised land, for instance. In this environment, the faithful made Aliyah to Jerusalem for the Passover, and they prayed for YESHUA to come and attend the feast during their purification rituals. They knew that true purification would come from Him alone. We see in the coming chapters that YESHUA came in answer to their prayers to fulfill Adonai's redemptive plan for them and for all humanity, to be sacrificed for the purification of everyone who believes in Him. Now it is our turn to pray for YESHUA to come, and He will do so soon in the foreseeable future on a Yom Teruah, when He comes this time as the conquering King of Kings after He purified the nations with fire on Yom Kippur, the day of judgment. He will consummate His marriage with His Jewish bride on Sukkot, the counterbalance feast of the Passover. So we have to pray for YESHUA to come, but as it is written, He will not return before the Jews in Jerusalem calls for Him with Baruch haba b'shem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And what the Gentile church calls for is of no avail. But we do have a responsibility to pray that the Messianic movement will continue to grow quickly as it does amongst the Jews in the land, so that they can call Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, and then YESHUA will come. Shalom, shalom.